British countryside is spectacular. But we work and play in it at our peril. And when things go wrong, the emergency services race to the rescue.
This chappie's having a heart attack and we need to get him in touch.
You're under arrest for failed to stop the police.
Going hundreds of miles against the clock. Battling the elements and braving the weather. From fields and forests to cliffs and country roads, we'll be right at the heart of the action. With police fighting crime.
I got suspicions that there might be cannabis being used.
Paramedics saving lives. And wardens safeguarding our lanes.
Out of the way.
We're there as the emergency services pull together to pick up, patch up, and protect the public. This is Countryside 999. From swift rescue by air to life-saving treatment on the road, our rural emergency services go the extra mile to help those in need. The Isle of Man sits in the centre of the Irish Sea, at the heart of the British Isles. Looking after 85,000 residents is the island's ambulance service. Paramedic Sean Crellin and emergency medical technician Sean Cannon make a tight team.
We're known as the Two Seans, but we're not famous for it. It makes it easier for the patients. I've only got to remember one name. We've both only got to remember one name, so yeah, makes life a bit easier. Myself and Sean have worked together now for nearly 3 years. We get on very well.
48 hours a week.
48 hours a week is definitely more than I spend with my wife. I do get on very well with my wife.
The crew are in the north of the island when a 999 call comes in.
Yeah, Trevor 9, please. Conscious, unresponsive, 70-year-old.
999 activated.
That's all received. We're probably about 6 miles away. Yeah, it's a female at a home address. Unconscious, but is breathing normally.
She is 6 days post-op as well. A hip, broken hip.
From their position on a mountain road, they need to get to the island's capital, Douglas, where the patient's been found unresponsive in her home. While they blue light to the scene, a first responder on the outskirts of Douglas has been sent ahead. In 15 minutes, they arrive. Former nurse Kathleen is in a bad way. She'd been doing well after an operation 6 days ago following a hip fracture. But today, husband Anthony found her unconscious in a chair.
Straight into a chair, bring her down to the ambulance. We'll do some more assessments there and get her stabilised, okay?
First responder Pete is a fully trained paramedic. He's measured 73-year-old Kathleen on the GCS, or Glasgow Coma Scale, a system used to measure levels of consciousness.
When we first got there, Pete was on scene already. He'd done a few assessments, said she had a reduced GCS. She wasn't responsive initially.
Kathleen needs life-saving treatment in the ambulance before they even attempt the journey to hospital.
Open your eyes up for me. That's great, thank you. We're going to pop you onto a chair. Yeah, we'll pop you on a chair and get you down to the ambulance, get you a bit more comfortable. She had a high temperature. From a history taken, we believe that she'd not long had an operation. So we thought there might be an infection from that. We're going to pop you on a chair now. There you are. sit back in that chair now.
Okay. You right there?
How are you feeling now, Kathleen?
Oh, okay, it's a bit shaky.
Bit shaky.
Okay.
The crew think Kathleen could have an infection in her blood following her recent operation. She has a high temperature and has been sick this morning. Now her blood sugar levels are a concern.
You're not diabetic, are you?
No.
Okay. Your blood sugars are very low at the moment.
Kathy, I just need to keep this right arm very, very still and relaxed for us, okay?
Yeah.
That's it, you're doing really good. Keep nice and relaxed for us.
You're not diabetic, but you haven't had much to eat today.
No, I'm sick.
Low blood sugar or hypoglycemia can lead to coma. Kathleen needs rapid-acting glucose to raise her levels. And the best way to get it in her system is intravenously.
Right, what we need to do, Kathy, is give you some glucose.
Okay.
I'm going to give that through a little vein in your arm if we can get one. Is that all right with you?
Yes.
Okay.
That's it, and just rest that arm down for us. And if you can, give my hand a little squeeze there. That's it, that's really good.
There we go. Just relax back there while we sort ourselves out. So, keep your arm nice and still for me, Kathy. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to give you what effectively is a sugary solution, which will bring your blood sugar levels up a bit. They're a little bit low, at 2.7 they were, which is below the level we want them anyway. And the effect of that can make you feel sort of drowsy and unusual.
Hopefully this'll pick her up a little bit, the sugar.
It's a worrying time for Anthony.
I just spoke to the check and not responding. We couldn't get her to respond at all.
Yeah.
So that's why we decided we should call you.
Yeah.
Do you feel any different, any brighter, any worse? That sugar hopefully will have helped you bring you to a little bit.
How's your breathing been feeling today?
Okay.
You been feeling okay? You've not been feeling short of breath or anything? Oh, that's good. You've had no pains in your chest?
Kathleen is starting to respond to the treatment. But despite the glucose she's been given, her blood sugars are still too low.
Blood sugars have come up a little bit, Kathy, but not enough. Not yet, so we'll give you a little bit more. You know what day it is today? Good. Give you another 50 mils of glucose and then hopefully whatever's in the right area of blood sugar levels. Feeling chilly? Yeah, put your hands under there if you wish.
Our blood pressure's a little bit lower than we'd like. When we were in the house, it felt very low.
This patient's fluctuating condition is keeping the crew on their toes. They don't know the cause of her symptoms for sure. But by using the ambulance as a mobile hospital, Sean and Sean are doing everything they can to stabilise Kathleen. In an ambulance on the Isle of Man, crew members Sean Cannon and Sean Krellin are giving life-saving treatment to Kathleen. They're fighting what they think are symptoms of an infection in her blood.
Blood pressure's a little bit on the low side as well. It wasn't initially, but it is now. It's right now it's 83 over 59. Yeah, it's a bit low, isn't it? Don't worry, we'll sort that out.
Kathleen was found unconscious at home by her husband Anthony.
Well, I was extremely worried. There didn't seem to me to be any reason why Kathleen's condition should have deteriorated so quickly and so dramatically. And they were obviously concerned about her blood sugar levels and her blood pressure, which was both were very low. And they felt the need to try and at least stabilise that before setting off to go to the hospital. And that's what they were working on in the ambulance.
We believe that she was suffering from infection in the bloodstream, possibly from the operation she had in the previous weeks. We We gave 1 gram of IV paracetamol. That's going to help take the temperature down. We gave the glucose, which will help pick his sugar levels up. And then we gave her some fluids, which help pick her blood pressure up and also help flush out the acids that are built up in her bloodstream.
After half an hour of emergency treatment in the ambulance, the crew were on their way to hospital.
It's a little bit bumpy as we go down through here. Maybe just heading to the bottom of Tremode.
As they arrive, Sean checks Kathleen's blood sugars again.
Just have one of your fingers then on your left hand. That's it. So your blood sugars now is up to 4.6. That's a lot better than it was when we first got here. Your pulse is a little bit irregular. Is that something that's normal for you? No? Yeah. We're at the hospital now, Kathleen, so we're not going to be long. We'll get you moved out.
Sean and Sean's focused attention in the back of the ambulance has been critical.
It's not always obvious what the patient's problem is, so you sometimes you just have to treat what you see and then see what the result of that is and move on from there, and just make sure you don't miss anything out. And if you do that, then you'll hopefully come up with an answer.
I think we both enjoy the challenge of diagnostics. We like to find the problem, and the equipment we've got now in the ambulances is absolutely fantastic, and it gives us such a clear view of the patient's condition, and hopefully we'll detect what the problem is, and if we can, we'll rectify it as quickly as we can.
John's a good technician. Trust him thoroughly. He's great to work with. I think he trusts me. Sometimes he knows what I'm thinking before I even think it, so it works well here.
It's time for the A&E medics to take over. 2 weeks ago, nurse Ola Pierce met Kathleen when she broke her hip.
I know her, this is not her. She was so lively when she came, even though she was waiting so long. And she still came to herself. Very smiley lady she is. But we're going to take some blood tests just to analyze. Then we're going to ask one of the ED doctor to see her. And then they'll take it from there. And then they'll arrange some CT scan just to see she hasn't fractured any of her skull. That will be it. My little angel here.
Kathleen now faces an array of tests to find the cause of her sudden decline and treat it fast. Are roads safe? To critical care in an ambulance. Rural emergency services across the nation are saving lives and fast-tracking recovery. When Anthony found his wife Kathleen slumped unconscious in a chair, Isle of Man ambulance paramedics arrived in 15 minutes.
Right, what we need to do, Kathy, is give you some glucose.
The specialist skills of Team Sean Crellin and Sean Cannon improved Kathleen's condition enough to take her to hospital.
So she'll be looked at by the doctor. They'll do a blood test and try and investigate the reason for her problems today.
After being admitted to hospital, Kathleen was moved to intensive care.
They were worried about her blood sugar and her blood pressure, and they got her into the ICU as quickly as they could. She was in the ICU for 36 hours.
Now, 5 weeks after her spell in intensive care, Kathleen is back home.
I was in hospital for nearly 2 weeks. I got pneumonia, but I didn't realise I got a chest infection previous to that. But obviously by the chest x-rays they could see the shadows on my lungs.
I was shown the x-ray by the consultant showing the dark spaces where the lungs are. And that space was substantially filled, 50 to 60%, with sort of almost sort of snow, the sort of thing you see on the television when you lose the picture. And he said, that's the infection.
The cleaner came, I let her in, but I wasn't still not feeling very well. So I came and sat down here, and the next minute I knew I was in the ambulance with the paramedics.
And also, she said that Kathleen was quite confused, and in fact, instead of handing her the basket with clothes to be ironed, she tried to hand her a bag of rubbish that was waiting to be taken out to the skips.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, Joe told me that.
I don't remember that.
She said you really didn't, you weren't yourself at all.
No.
But the former nurse does remember who looked after her in the ambulance.
The paramedic that looked after me is called Sean, and another Sean. And they were great. I couldn't speak more highly of them. They took care of me very well. It was nice to be at home. Always nice to come home.